Hey everyone, I'm your host Tom Shaughnessy and welcome back to Chain Reaction, a research-driven podcast that's a part of Delphi Digital. If you're not on Delphi's research portal, you're missing out on the critical analysis read by the top minds in the crypto space, so be sure to check it out. One quick housekeeping item, nothing said on this podcast is a solicitation to buy or sell any security or token or to make any financial decisions. Also, all advertisements and podcast sponsors are strictly for informational purposes only and are not endorsements of any products or services. I may personally hold tokens mentioned on the podcast, and you can view our show notes below for our complete disclosures. Hey guys, I wanted to tell you how easy it is to open and fund an Alto crypto IRA. All you have to do is open a traditional Roth or SEP crypto IRA account, then get ready to invest. An Alto crypto IRA is specifically designed for crypto investments. You custody with Coinbase, trading's tax-free, investment minimums are as low as $10, and gains grow tax-deferred, meaning you don't pay taxes until you start to take money out of your IRA. You can visit and open an account by visiting altoira.com/chainreaction. With that, let's jump into the episode. Hey everyone, welcome back to the podcast. Today I'm thrilled to have on Alex from River Financial, fresh off their recent raise. Alex, how's it going?
It's going great. Thanks for having me on, Tom.
Yeah, man, I'm excited about this. And shout out to Rod at your company, who's your chief client officer, for setting this up. Appreciate that too. So Alex, let's dive in on you, man. How'd you get started in crypto? How'd you find out about the space?
Yeah, so it's been a while at this point. So when I was an undergrad in college, I went to the University of Maryland, College Park. I was studying aerospace engineering, but was very interested in economics. Started reading books on the side. Didn't actually take an economics class in school, but was reading Milton Friedman, Thomas Sowell, and then eventually read Friedrich Hayek's Denationalization of Money, and got really obsessed with this idea of kind of questioning, the concept of money as I knew it at that point, which was basically, there's US dollars and that's just what we use as money. And kind of by the end of my college years, this was in 2012, wanted to have this idea of building a financial institution that offered people access to money outside of the purview of the Federal Reserve, or money that the government could print more of. And I didn't know how that would work or how I would even build such an institution, or how that money would even look like, whether it would be commodity backed or something like that. And then the next year, I was taking some web engineering courses online and came across Bitcoin and just became totally obsessed because realized it fulfilled this prophecy and it would allow such an institution to exist. And the genius of it was that it was neither private money nor government money. It was this new kind of concept that transcended any sort of categorization. And it was just, so I moved to San Francisco after that, and I've mostly been working on Bitcoin ever since. I got a job out in San Francisco as an engineer at a Bitcoin startup called MyCoin. This was back in 2014. They were like kind of Coinbase, but for Taiwan, but they had an office in Palo Alto. And then did that for a while, helped build that product out. Then ended up going back to grad school, did my master's in computer science at Stanford, where I focused on security and cryptography. I actually helped teach the first Bitcoin class there with Dan Benet, who was the professor. I was one of the teaching assistants. So this was before Bitcoin was super popular in academia, but it was pretty fun helping build out that course. And then since then, done a number of things. Most recently, I was at Polychain Capital, helping build out some of their infrastructure, and also was helping them do some investing, finding venture deals in the Bitcoin space. So and then after Polychain, started River.
And you had some light reading back in college. Those those sound like they were pretty intense.
Yeah, I don't even remember how I got started reading those kind of books, to be honest. I think when I was a freshman, I Googled, good first economics books, and someone suggested Thomas Sowell's Basic Economics. I was like, well, that sounds like exactly what I'm looking for, basic economics. And it was just like this big fat book, but it was super digestible and accessible. I mean, he just did Thomas Sowell is like kind of someone I really look up to. He just did such a good job at making it easy to understand these economic principles. And and at a higher level, the importance of economic liberty and economic freedom. And and then I think that just got me started down that line of thinking, basically.
That's awesome. Yeah, I feel like a lot of the top founders in crypto don't really have finance backgrounds. I mean, most come from the tech world, and two, there's a lot of people that start in like philosophy or literature or something else, and they end up like finding economics and then just fall down the rabbit hole. I mean, your case, aerospace is, I'm sure. Did you decide like actively against kind of pursuing a career there, or did you just get more interested in the other things you mentioned?
So I after 4 years of studying aerospace engineering, the reason that I didn't go into the industry directly was because I didn't know what my future would look like in such an industry. It was kind of just at the beginning of kind of the new commercial space race, and it wasn't really a thing yet. And it just seemed like all of the aerospace opportunities were in these long projects that took like years or decades, and you work for some government contractor, and like you spend a year designing some little part for something that Congress could cancel, and it just wasn't something I wanted to sign up for. So I did management consulting for a year to like kind of figure out what my next step would be, and decided software was really where you could just move fast and build something and iterate. And so, yeah, that's kind of where my line of thinking was.
No, that's awesome. I mean, it's crazy though that you were looking for something that eventually became Bitcoin, and the gap between you kind of thinking about that and you finding it, it sounds like was what, like 3 or 4 years or something like that?
Maybe less, maybe like a year.
Oh, damn.
I mean, in 2012, I remember in the spring of 2012, I was really thinking about this idea of like private money. And then a year later, basically learned about Bitcoin. So
that's incredible. Let's dive into River Financial, man. What's the quick pitch on River Financial?
Yeah, so River is the easiest place to buy, sell, use, and track your Bitcoin. We focus on making it really easy for people who are especially new to Bitcoin for the first time to buy their first Bitcoin and take them on that journey and handhold them. We pride ourselves in our very good client services. For example, we have a phone number people can call. We have a lot of high net worth clients. We're kind of focused on the upper end of the market right now, kind of what we call the emerging affluent, all the way up to the ultra high net worth individuals, some of whom are Bitcoin OGs and just want a place that, that focuses on Bitcoin, all the way to people who have never bought Bitcoin before and are buying, millions of dollars of it for the first time. And they want that high touch client service.
That's incredible. So the upper end of the wealth spectrum here is interesting because a lot of people are focusing on retail first, right? Like I know Coinbase in my mind is retail first. I know a couple other startups are more retail first. How did you guys decide to go after the more institutional type market? Because it definitely is a different sell.
Yeah, absolutely. So, I'm not even sure I would call it institutional, because at the end of the day, it's just an individual. And
that's fair.
And, but they do have different needs, because there often is an institution involved in some way, shape, or form, whether it's an LLC that houses their assets, or whether it's a family office that we need to interface with and communicate with, right? But basically, what we realized was if you look at the Bitcoin space today, there wasn't really anywhere where somebody could send their friend who has money, who's used to high quality financial services, where they can call their private banker, they can call their wealth manager, and have them do stuff for them, right? Get an answer. There wasn't anything like that. I mean, I knew people with 7-8 figures of money and some of these crypto companies, and they couldn't even get anybody on the phone, right? In the world of traditional finance, if you have like $10 million at an institution, they're picking up the phone for you. And so, yeah. And so, that's why that was an opportunity, right? Basically, it's kind of an industry-wide complaint that client services in the crypto space is terrible. people trust their banks more than they trust crypto companies, and people don't really trust banks these days. So I think that says a lot of kind of like how far the industry has to improve around client services. And so that was kind of one of the things that kind of inspired me to take this angle.
No, that's big. I mean, customer service is huge for a company. And I mean, a lot of crypto companies don't have them because the projects are anonymous or decentralized, or you have to dig into a community to find support. But it sounds like what you're building is the company first focus, where you guys have like dedicated advisors for all of your contacts.
Yeah, I mean, so for our private client tier of services, for the ultra high net worth people, we have dedicated advisors. But then we have more of the mass market, kind of the mass affluence to the high net worth folks buying, tens of thousands, maybe a couple $100,000 of Bitcoin. They still have access to, all of us at the company if they ever need help. But it's kind of tiered, and as we scale, obviously, kind of the types of not every single person can get an individual advisor if they're just buying, something like $10,000 of Bitcoin. But our goal is that if you are buying $10,000 of Bitcoin, you can still get somebody on the phone. We still have the best service compared to anyone else in the industry.
I wonder how many people or how many clients call you guys just for education. What is Bitcoin? What does all this mean? Do you guys get a lot of that, or is it more on the operational side of things?
Absolutely, and that's the kind of the other side of the approach here is, client services isn't just about helping people when they have problems, right? If you look at the Bitcoin space today, there's a lot of people interested in buying Bitcoin. Blockchain Capital did a great survey back in 2019, and they looked at, what percentage of people are interested in buying Bitcoin and what percentage of people actually have Bitcoin. And there's a huge gap there. And if you do the research and kind of look into it and talk to people, you realize it's just Bitcoin is very intimidating for people who are new to the space, and they need a human to hold their hand and walk them through and take them on this journey. And so our client services isn't just about reacting to problems. It's about like helping people. Our goal as a company is to help take people who have never bought Bitcoin before and handhold them through this journey of buying their first Bitcoin, understanding how to track it and look at their tax lots and all the financial reports, and then all the way to potentially someday self-custody. And so we're building out, we go deep onto Bitcoin and wide across financial services. So we're building out financial services, not just custodial brokerage like we offer today, but deep hardware wallet integration with non-custodial accounts where you can keep all of your financial reporting tools, but you control your keys, all the way to tax advantaged accounts and things like that.
That's incredible. I mean, like the private client side, like I spent time on Wall Street, like that makes a lot of sense to me. Like I definitely think that that's kind of an unmet need right now, especially on the customer service side and integrating with FAs and wealth managers and family offices. I definitely see the value there. The thing I'm wondering though is it seems like the retail market is saturated, right? Like, I mean, everyone sends their friends to Coinbase or like Cash App or something like that. Like, how do you carve out a niche when you have, frankly, these giants with, tons and tons of money to throw at this space?
So I truly think that client services is a big differentiation there, and also our product offering. Our goal is to be the place people send their friends to. We have clients who have switched over from the companies you just mentioned because they can't get help if they need it. And if you think about what is somebody thinking when they're sending their friend to a company, right? Is this going to reflect well on them as somebody referring a friend? And our goal there is if you send your friend to us, your friend will be taken care of. And they're not going to come back to you saying, I opened an account. What do I do now? I have no idea what I'm doing. I can't get help, right? We want people to know that if you send somebody to River, they're going to be taken care of. And that's how we win. And that's how we grow our business. And I think there is a huge opportunity. I don't think it's saturated. There's a lot of people who want to buy Bitcoin and haven't bought any Bitcoin. And the reason they're staying on the sidelines is that none of these companies have been successful at making Bitcoin less intimidating. And I think that's the key.
Yeah, that's a good point. I mean, I'm having PTSD right now from when I used to send my friends to Coinbase in like 2018, and they would have to send like a support ticket and get a response back, 5 weeks later. I'm sure it's changed since then, but it definitely was a niche to fix.
Exactly. And I think all of us in the industry, it's really easy to kind of forget what it was like the first time we ever bought Bitcoin, right? Everyone takes for granted the knowledge they have now, but if you put yourself in the shoes of somebody who's completely new to the industry, um, you know, for going to an exchange is just like, what the heck? Like, most people don't know what an order book is or how exchanges work at all, much less an exchange with cryptocurrency, right? Um, a lot of people don't even know how to reason about, starting to get started with this stuff. And yeah, so, there's a big just mental hurdle there for people. And it takes a human to talk to them to kind of walk them through it all.
No, you're totally right. So, I mean, so the thing about River, like what I'm getting from you is super straightforward, the place you go to when you want to buy Bitcoin, like straight up, this is what we're targeting, and really a huge focus on customer support. I guess to play devil's advocate, what's your take on growth though for River? Like, do you think that River will be, hey, the place to buy Ethereum or the place to buy Solana in the future? Like, I guess, how do you think through that kind of dynamic?
So our hypothesis as a company is that Bitcoin is going to continue to grow in its role as a store of value and a medium of exchange around the world. So we're focused on Bitcoin only. We think Bitcoin of all the cryptocurrencies is the one that's going to become, the money of the world, the new next reserve currency of the world. And so we're not building an exchange. We're building a bank. We're not a bank, but we're building effectively what looks like, in a world where Bitcoin is money, what does banking look like, right? That's how we think about this. So, our goal is to help bring people into Bitcoin and then down the road cross-sell financial services, for various ways to manage that Bitcoin, right? Just as a bank would with US dollars. And so, we're basically building a financial institution focused on, the future of a Bitcoin, a Bitcoin native world.
No, that's
So
fair.
it's a bit of a different take. We actually have a very different strategy than the existing companies.
No, you guys are. And I mean, let's dive into a couple of the questions I mean, people probably have. I mean, two of the big ones that I would think about when buying Bitcoin is one, security, and then two, kind of fees, fees to the exchange or fees to the provider, and then maybe slippage. I guess we could start with probably security. I guess, how do you guys approach security here?
Yeah, so a lot of us at the company have very deep security backgrounds. I'm, a security professional by training. We have our chief security officer, Jonathan Wilkins, was the former chief security officer at Blockstream. So we have very deep Bitcoin security knowledge in the company. We built everything from the ground up the right way, as if we were building, the world's biggest Bitcoin bank. So we have the majority of funds offline in deep cold storage with, and one of the benefits of being Bitcoin only is our infrastructure can focus and take advantage of Bitcoin protocol level security tools. So, for example, our cold storage uses multi-sig, native multi-sig on Bitcoin, right? So that means we have a number of keys that have never been in this, that have never been in the same room, never come together, and it requires multiple signatures to move any of this money. Now, if we abstracted our cold storage across a lot of different coins, we would have to build an arbitrary secret store using something like Shamir secret sharing or something like that, or kind of multi-party computation stuff that's just much more complicated and has lower security guarantees. So, starting with the cold storage, we built it kind of the Bitcoin way. And then on top of that, we have our servers, which we self-host. So we have our own physical server cluster. It sits in a 2,000 pound vault. And so all of our core services run on that. We don't run anything really sensitive in the cloud. And so we kind of built this whole thing in a very paranoid way with security first. And everyone's account has two-factor authentication enforced. It's not an option. You have to have two-factor authentication set up. And then we'll be rolling out kind of a number of really cool, security upgrades to accounts over the next year. We have a lot of cool ideas.
Hey guys, I wanted to tell you how easy it is to open and fund an Alto crypto IRA. All you have to do is open a traditional Roth or SEP crypto IRA account, then get ready to invest. An Alto crypto IRA is specifically designed for crypto investments. You custody with Coinbase, trading's tax-free, investment minimums are as low as $10, and gains grow tax-deferred, meaning you don't pay taxes until you start to take money out of your IRA. You can visit and open an account by visiting altoira.com/chainreaction.
That's awesome. A lot of questions there. I mean, the 2,000-pound vault, I mean, that must have been crazy to build or buy. How did you go about handling that? Or it sounds like a crazy construction project.
It's actually hard to get your hands on one. Because they're made for the DoD. They're made for the military. God. These are the type of vaults that sit in military bases where they contain the servers in military bases, basically. And so, they're the people who sell these aren't used to selling them to random small startups.
That must have been an odd call for you. Hey, I want to store internet money in a 2,000-pound vault. How much?
Yeah, exactly. We had to work some connections there.
Yeah, that's incredible. And the other thing you mentioned was Bitcoin's native multi-signature system. For those new to the space, do other providers that use cold storage use Bitcoin's native multi-sig system, or do they use a different type of system that you know about? Like, is that a differentiator for you guys?
Yes, it is a differentiator. So most of the multi-coin companies will use a cold storage that works across all different coins. So they'll be storing kind of arbitrary secrets that, so that they can support any chain down the road, regardless of what the keys look like. And so that typically means that will often mean that the key material at some point all comes together. Whereas with Bitcoin native multisig, that isn't the case. Now, there are some providers that do use Bitcoin native multisig. BitGo, for example, does use Bitcoin native multisig, and there are other people, but no one's infrastructure is advanced as ours, because we also built our own wallet from the ground up, and so we're ready to leverage kind of the latest and greatest functionality of the Bitcoin protocol as it upgrades. And because we only focus on Bitcoin, we're not going to be lagging with Taproot update. When Taproot launches, like, we'll be ready with that, right? And now the multi-signature addresses can be Schnorr, not to get into like the cryptography details, but basically we can always move fastest as the Bitcoin protocol updates, and we'll always be ahead of the pack there.
That's incredible. And the other thing, I mean, I'm just looking through like the security you guys have. Like, I just love that you have not recommended for SMS text for two-factor auth and you prefer Google Auth. Like, it's just little things like that for new people though to the space. They might not understand why they don't want to use SMS and text, but like, that's a big deal for people to be aware of. I'm glad you guys put that out there.
Yeah. And then we also see it as our mission to help people who want to learn, self-custody and get those coins off of our platform. So, one of the things that we're going to be rolling out here in the next month is a hardware wallet account is what we call it. And just to explain a little more what that means. So when you sign up for River, you automatically get one account. It's called, your individual account. It's a brokerage account. And then as we roll out new products, these are going to be different types of accounts. Just like you would have a checkings account at a bank and a savings account, and or your tax advantage IRA or something at a bank. We're going to have different products with different account types. So we're rolling out a hardware wallet account where you can actually connect your ledger or Trezor and see all your coins on River from your ledger, see all your transactions. And our wallet infrastructure knows how to generate addresses for your ledger. It knows how to watch the blockchain for your ledger. And then when you buy Bitcoin on River and you transfer it to your hardware wallet account, we'll actually also transfer over all the tax data. So you can keep track of all your cost basis on all of your tax lots and all of your financial reporting for coins that you custody.
Wow. Yeah, no, the tax issue that's incredible. You guys are really, I guess, since you guys are focused only on Bitcoin, you really don't have to worry about doing all of these things 100 times, because you could just focus on building out one system for everything, or one system for each aspect that you need.
Exactly. And, when people ask me, are we, sacrificing anything by focusing only on Bitcoin? I say, no, actually, it's economically rational to focus on one thing and do it well, focus on the biggest, most popular thing and do it better than anyone else. And everyone else other than Cash App is hamstrung by the technical debt that they have from having to support dozens and dozens of assets. And I just like to give an example. Even if we supported one additional type of blockchain, that would cause the complexity of our system to at least quadruple, right?
Yes.
And so because there's all this abstraction we'd have to do all of a sudden across kind of every single thing we've built. And if you just do one thing, our motto is do one thing and do it well. And so yeah.
No, I like that. And how do you guys think through fees, like, and being competitive there? How is that on River?
Yeah, so our fees are so it depends on the amount you're buying. So right now our fees are pretty similar to the other brokerages, like a Cash App or a Coinbase. I would say kind of our service right now is not for the professional trader, the person who is used to placing complex, who's used to doing their own order execution on exchanges or multiple exchanges. We actually front the liquidity for most of our clients. So when a user buys Bitcoin from us, we're fronting the liquidity on their behalf, and they post that they're settling with us later over ACH. So we basically allow you to sign up, connect your bank account, and within 2 minutes buy Bitcoin at the price today, and you don't have to pay us until we pull it from your bank account a few days later. So because of that, we're not as cheap as placing limit orders on some exchange, but we think that it's worth it for the convenience.
No, I mean, being able to buy a large amount quickly is great because, whoever I send to other exchanges, they're always rate limited by, how small their account is or how new they are. And it's just, frankly, it's annoying for people that are sold on the idea and just want to make a big purchase.
Yep. And then for people who do really want to move some serious size, they can call us, send in a wire that day, and we'll place an order over the phone for them. So we have clients who wire in millions of dollars, and they just call us up. We give them a quote over the phone, and they place it the old school way. But a lot of people like that. It's just really convenient.
Oh yeah, all the top funds, family offices, they want to speak to a person, and they're definitely not going to do this over an app. That's for sure. What do you I mean, isn't there like a, you don't have to get into it if you can't, but I mean, isn't there like a working capital issue here though? Like if you guys front all the Bitcoin and then the price goes down before you settle up, or am I thinking about that wrong?
Well, yeah. So that's why a business like this is actually a lot of work. I mean, kudos to Coinbase for kind of getting this model working. Is it does take a lot of work to handle fronting liquidity for orders coming in on the web, processing these payments, handling all the edge cases with those payments failing, with fraud, and all of those things, right? There's a plethora of problems to solve to get a company like this right, and we're taking it one step at a time. But so far, it's going well. In terms of working capital, yes, we are, because we are fronting this liquidity, we have a lot of cash management needs, and that's just part of the business. And so as we scale, we need to get creative with that, whether that's setting up our own post-trade settlement agreements with, counterparties we trade with, or kind of more clever financing approaches. So these are all things that are kind of at the core of what we do.
That's awesome. Yeah. And I want to focus a little bit more before we close out on the institutional side, because I think that's like an untapped market, like dealing with family offices, dealing with advisors, wealth managers, stuff like that. The only thing I'm wondering about is like, and not to harp on competition, but like Galaxy and Bakkt rolled out a white glove service. Like I'm sure Fidelity's, going to aggressively target this at some point. And they have a solid team. Like you have Coinbase with their kind of pro platform. Like, how do you think through that pie? Because I think we both agree that it's underserved. And I think we both agree that there's massive value and a ton of money sitting on the sidelines with these people. But I always look at things like competition in mind first, and it seems like a tough barrier to overcome.
Yeah. So, I mean, right now, our big thing is just making it very easy for the individuals and building a brand so that all of our clients are so happy that they're recommending their friends. That's our core focus. And our if we can do that, we can win. Now, when it comes to the RIA market and the institutions, and trying to crack that nut is very challenging because it's all very heterogeneous. And there's all these RIAs are very they use their own systems. They're spread out across a number of different trading systems. They want to use tools that integrate with theirs. And frankly, we're still trying to figure out all that. The one thing we've realized is like, we cannot make everyone happy. So we have to focus. And so our focus has been kind of like the individual and kind of manually interfacing with, with their family offices or RIAs as that comes. I do think there is a big opportunity here to serve as a, platform down the road for people who are RIAs. But how that might look is still something we're thinking through. Because as I mentioned, a lot of this is like a systems integrations challenges because these RIAs are all using their own systems and they would want any Bitcoin they buy to kind of integrate into their reporting tooling and all that. So I don't have a perfect answer. We're still figuring all that out.
No, that's fair. I mean, it's the thing that I guess is important to be when you guys are approaching this and what you guys are hitting on is, if you have a massive multi-billion-dollar fund that's diving into the space, like they're not going to figure out Binance or Coinbase to do this. And they want someone on the phone, they want customer support. I mean, it's things that like we take for granted in crypto because like a new generation, but what a lot of crypto forgets is that there's so much money at these funds waiting to dive in, and there's really not that many great services for them to do so.
Absolutely. I mean, I think there's a big opportunity there. We've done a lot of thinking about this, like, how to service a fund. So I would actually break it down into, I would break down the institutions into almost three categories. There's kind of the institution in name onlys, which are just LLCs or solely owned entities that just house assets. That's basically a consumer. There are the funds and financial institutions, and then there's operating companies that want to use Bitcoin as money to pay people. And I think for the funds and institutions like that, there's a massive amount of capital there. There's a big opportunity. And that's something I think that we're going to be well positioned to help with down the road. And then the operating companies as well is an interesting one that's often not looked at. But for both the funds and the operating companies, one of the biggest barriers is accounting and understanding how to even deal with this new type of asset, right? And when I talk to accountants or people who run companies and they're kind of considering, they have employees that want to get paid in Bitcoin. I mean, the biggest challenge is the accountants just it's a massive headache to deal with anything like that. So there's a lot of really interesting accounting challenges to solve. And I think the person who can solve that will be very successful.
I'm with you there. So, share some candid thoughts with us here. What was the craziest client call you've had so far? If you could share it, is this like a massive purchase somebody did, or is it something that caught you by surprise? And if you want to talk about growth on the platform too, that would be awesome to hear too.
Yeah, no, well, I mean, I have a lot of stories. There's really cool ones where, someone's calling in, they want to make massive orders, which we always love to see. But I think the funniest ones have been the fraudsters. The kind of things people try to pull. Obviously we're very we never reveal client data to anybody, so I'll be very vague when describing anything. But we've had clients who have been tricked into online romances at sometimes and things like that, and they're calling because their online romance is asking them to send Bitcoin so that they can buy, gift cards. And, you have to kind of break it to this person that, this is not actually, a relationship you want to be in. And so
that's crazy. You went from starting a Bitcoin company to telling people their Hinge dates are fake. That's great.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, those are a lot of interesting things like that. I think the fraudsters are the most entertaining, although it's funny in hindsight, but it is actually a serious problem. There's a lot of identity theft out there, and we try to really help anyone who comes to us, even if they're being tricked into buying Bitcoin. We try to really just tell them, hey, this is a trick. You probably don't want to buy Bitcoin right now. Like, this person's tricking you. Come back if you ever really actually want to buy Bitcoin, but you shouldn't be doing this right now. So we try to help save people from identity theft when we see it.
It's crazy what you have to deal with when you start a company. It's like all those random indirect things that you didn't think you'd have to do. Like for VCs, they have to be therapists, and for you guys, you have to watch out for these crazy dating apps. It's wild.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, no, a lot of funny stories there.
So yeah, no, I'm with you. So Alex, you guys raised, close to $6 million recently, which is incredible. Given you guys are new, I know this has been a work in progress for a while, which is amazing. What do you like? How's growth been like on the platform, and what is like your go-to metric when you wake up? Like, is it number of clients? Is it like average balance per client? Is it volume? Like, what do you look at that really makes you happy about River?
Yeah, so growth has been great. We're seeing very steady organic acceleration of our user growth. And to your question, user growth is our biggest focus. Quality user growth, really. And so, we have a few heuristics internally that we use to kind of determine what's a quality user. But we really focus on the user growth because that's kind of that's the most actionable metric that we can have, right? Saying we need this many users per week or this many users per month. Volume is a metric we pay close attention to because it is our main revenue driver right now. But down the road, we see us kind of cross-selling multiple financial services. So we don't want to be reliant on just fee revenues from volumes because it's just also much less out of our control. It's so driven by the market and macro things that we don't have any influence on that, sitting around and waiting for a price movement so that we can make some money is not how we want to be living.
No, I'm with you there. That makes a lot of sense. And one of my other questions unrelated to that, but I want to make sure we get it, is just when you guys are going out to the private client division, like I'm always wondering, like, do you view River as something that will integrate with, say, the Oppenheimers of the world and the Wells Fargos of the world for these FAs and wealth managers, or like, will they build out their own systems to buy their clients Bitcoin? Like, how do you foresee that playing out? Because there's a lot of money there on the sidelines of, people actually, everyone talks about, hey, if everyone allocated 1% to Bitcoin, but like this is a key bridge that has to be built before that can happen.
Yeah, I mean, there's two possible futures. One is that we're helping service those institutions to, provide Bitcoin services to their clients. The other is we steal their clients because they don't provide Bitcoin services and their clients want that. And we expand, across not just Bitcoin financial services, but financial services in general. Our goal is to at some day down the road be a large financial institution providing a broad array of financial services to our clients. And we see Bitcoin as our main differentiator in terms of, the broad financial services industry. We'll see.
That's incredible. I mean, it's a crazy vision. I'm trying to think through, like, would it be easier for you guys to add all the traditional financial services become a bank, or for the bank to add crypto? And seeing how slow banks move at adding crypto and just, the cultural stuff that they're against, I feel like it would be easier for you guys to just grow into a bank.
I mean, that's kind of how we think about it. The way, from what I can tell, the incumbent financial institutions aren't culturally or technologically prepared for a Bitcoinized future, right? And so if that future does materialize, we're going to be very well positioned to capitalize on that. That's how we think about it.
No, I'm with you. I'm not downplaying how hard it would be to be a bank. Like, legally and technically it would be insane, but I just think the banks are so hamstrung. Yeah, like the banks, they don't want to like culturally get past it. And hey, look, I don't think it's like an ignorance thing. I just think like, hey, you have people at a traditional bank, they have their job they do every day. Like, it's not really their job to, be on the cutting edge of Bitcoin and Lightning Network and Schnorr. Like, I guess I could understand it a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, and if you put yourself in their shoes, that there's a risk to servicing Bitcoin, and banks are extremely, from a regulatory perspective, risk averse. And, if you're making $1 gajillion with your bank charter, are you going to risk that for, maybe initially, a couple $1 million of revenue for some Bitcoin thing, right? How do you convince a CEO of a multi-billion-dollar bank to do that, right?
That's really good framing.
Yeah, and so that's how they're thinking about this. And so, it would take a bank CEO to be 100% bought in, and then, to be able to, to scale that and good luck convincing the board as well, right? And the regulators who regulate you. So it's and banks have all these ratio requirements they need to maintain, and then if they have Bitcoin on their balance sheet, what does that mean for these ratios? And if the Bitcoin price spikes or jumps, or I don't blame the banks, right? They're kind of they're ossified kind of by nature, but if the future if things change very fast, they're not going to be prepared.
No, I'm with you there. And switching to the other side of the river, pun intended here. What's your take on decentralized exchanges and liquidity pools and stuff like that overtaking like the centralized exchanges? And I know you guys aren't like an exchange per se, like you're a financial services company. I totally get that. But at some point, like the lines start to blur here. And, the fiat on-ramp is obviously a huge differentiating factor and customer service and stuff like that. But I guess directionally, do you think that decentralized exchanges and liquidity pools and AMMs and stuff like that will actually take down or take over the centralized exchanges?
I would be surprised if they take it over. The reason is that there are so many efficiencies from centralization. And I think at the end of the day, trust is beautiful, right? When you can trust somebody and you can trust an institution, you get so much more economic activity. You get so much, you can offer services for much cheaper because you're not thinking adversarially constantly. And so, in a civilized world, we do have institutions we can trust. And I think that's always going to be the case. That said, I do think there's a very interesting world for decentralized exchange, whether that's for kind of escaping regulatory regimes in other places to, maybe there are some efficiencies there that, we couldn't get because centralized institutions are, getting too greedy and rent seeking, and they have these regulatory moats that prevent anyone from competing with them outside of a decentralized system. So I don't know, but I would anticipate definitely both will continue to exist. And I'm not sold that decentralized exchanges are going to be bigger than centralized exchanges, but I do think that there's a cool future there. And I think River even is, we're very interested in decentralized tech down the road and enabling stuff like that. I mean, we've thrown around the ideas of, helping, being an oracle for discrete log contracts and trading those things and stuff like that. So we're paying attention to this space. I think there's a lot of interesting stuff there potentially.
That's awesome. Yeah, no, I totally agree that there's a lot of interesting stuff going on there. And just to close out, two last questions for you, Alex. First, with the funding, what's on the top of your laundry list of things you want for River? Like, I'm not sure if you guys have an app yet. Like, is that on the roadmap? Is it more internal? Like, continuing to build out that security and customer service, or, where are you hoping to, spend the money to fuel growth?
Yeah, so we have an app coming this summer. It's been highly requested, and we have it. A few months ago, we hired an awesome iOS developer. So we have an iOS app coming in August is our target for launching that. We have this hardware wallet account rolling out. And then we have some other custodial financial services that will be launching in late summer, early fall. So I won't give those away yet. So, but basically, we're focused on mobile and going broad across financial services, both at the protocol level in the decentralized world with this hardware wallet account and you owning your own keys to kind of other centralized financial services. So we want to be this institution that you can trust, but you don't have to trust. That's our goal. And we think that if we can build that institution, we'll win a lot of business because people will always want to use the institution that has this structure set up so that, if we try to do any funny business, people are just going to leave, right? If we make it easy for people to leave, if we do wrong by our users, then we'll do well, right? Because kind of the structure, we forced ourselves to continually be honest. And that's the kind of company that I want to build.
No, that's huge. And the other question for you is, what do you think is the biggest risk to your business? I mean, look, I have a ledger and sometimes it keeps me up at night. You're over here with, a ledger, I'm oversimplifying all the security you guys do, but it's just putting myself in your position. It's just, I don't know if I would sleep knowing I'm custodying all those assets. How do you deal with that?
Well, our custody is distributed, right? So there's no single point of failure. And we've made sure that, that those risks are addressed in our storage, and it does help us sleep well at night. it's constantly tested, it's constantly used, and and because of kind of the rigor that we've put into it, I do sleep well. But that said, as we scale, there's going to be more and more challenges. Security always keeps me up at night. It's more the security that's, is more unnerving is just like the server security, right? And, you have hackers always trying to break in, and you have to be right 100% of the time. And we have an amazing team there. So, but it's something that we're always vigilant. And so that just comes with the territory when you're running a Bitcoin company.
No, I'm totally with you there. And you guys, I mean, I'm going to link to you guys in the show notes. Everybody I want everyone to check out your security page. You guys got a lot going on there and a lot of thought and planning that went into that. Well, Alex, this has been a pleasure having you on, man. It's great to meet somebody who's, building a company so fast and has got such great support and kind of has a clear focus. After speaking with you, I know you're servicing retail and more of the private client side. I'm pretty bullish on your private client division. I think it's an unmet area to kind of link financial services with crypto, but I know you're focused on both, but I'm biased here from the outside.
Oh, totally. Yeah. And, anyone listening would love to, they can feel free to reach out to me personally if they have any interest. I'm alex@river.com. Easy to get in touch with me.
Alex, I keep track of this. You're the second person to share an email on the pod. I love that. It usually shows people that are relentless. I love it.
Yeah, well, we have a lot of clients. I call a lot of our clients as well on the phone. And, we really like to get to know our customers.
That's awesome. I appreciate that. And Alex, where can people find out more about River if they're on their phone or just on their laptop?
Yeah, river.com. It's really easy. River.com. You can follow us on Twitter @riverfinancial. Yeah.
That sounds like the second hardest thing to negotiate. First was the 2,000-pound safe. Second was definitely this URL.
Oh yeah, we I think we got a pretty good deal on that. It definitely wasn't cheap, but when we found that was available, and we knew it was the perfect name.
Yeah, that's amazing. Well, Alex, thanks so much for coming on, man. Definitely have you on again soon.
Thanks, Tom. It was a pleasure.
Hey everyone, thanks for listening to the podcast. If you enjoyed it, please support the show by hitting subscribe on iTunes, writing a review, or sharing this episode on Twitter and LinkedIn. And stay tuned for our next episode, out soon.